All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Yoakum. This is ProInsight, and today we're talking about personality profiles. And first and foremost, one of the things that we want to do is understand our personality, our natural behaviors, and what motives that drive the behavior that we exhibit. And this came to light for me because I'm registered to become a success coach. In August, I'm going to go through their certification, which is quite extensive actually. And I'm excited about taking it. 40 hours worth of certification to become a coach there. And one of the things that they do is they have they use the DISC diagnostic, which is an acronym, by the way, for the D is like driven, demanding, I is influencer, S is system stable, and C is compliant, correct. And the interesting thing about behavior is that there's no right or wrong behavior, first of all, okay? Whatever your behavior is what it is. And we love you for it, or in spite of you. And the key thing in my message to you today is to play to your strengths, right? So I have a link that I've acquired through Success Coaching so that you can take the DISC for free and find out what you are. But it is really important, especially now when the business may not be falling from the trees quite like it was only a short time ago. And you're actually going to have to do some prospecting and marketing to get your business. And it's really interesting to observe, of course, in all the brokerages that I've had at one time or another, I've had over 5,000 agents working in the brokerages that I've had an ownership position in. And so I've had an opportunity to both observe my own behavior, but also that of literally thousands of agents. And when an agent aligns themselves and their prospecting marketing activities with their natural behavior, then success ensues. And when they attempt to do marketing or prospecting that is in contrast to their natural strengths and behavior, then it's really an act of frustration. And you can generally know if you are behaving consistent with your natural behavior. At the end of the day, you'll either feel energized or exhausted. So when you are doing an activity that plays to your strengths, time flies and you're in your zone, you're enjoying what you're doing, you're quite likely quite good at it. And that can be very energizing, energetic. And and what you want to do is you want to adapt your style. So for example, I've done a lot of recruiting in my day for real estate brokerages, right? And what I did is I turned my appointments into consultative appointments because that was really a natural fit for me. And because I had to do so many of them, usually a couple a day, it was important that I did them in a way that was fulfilling to me, right? And I always felt like if I showed up to the appointment and took a consultative approach, even if the agent didn't end up joining me or my company, I felt like I made a difference, and it was really energizing to me. And so I could go home at night and feel good about myself and what I had done and the contribution that I had made. And hopefully, a good percentage of those people would join me, but not all did. Usually about half, actually. And so I would go on my way. But the point is that I had approached my task in a way that worked for me, right? And I think it's really important that you do that. And and it's not to say, by the way, that you can't violate it, meaning you can't, especially if you're really intelligent, you can modify your behavior to adjust to the situation, and you can proceed and even have success. But that success will come at a cost. It'll come at a cost of your energy, and you'll end up probably getting burned out, actually. And so my mission today is, first of all, to bring to your awareness that this is a really important component of how you position yourself in this business. And it's interesting because most people, like if I, when I'm interviewing agents, I'll say, well, how do you produce your business? And the overwhelming majority, more than 70%, will tell me, well, I work mostly by referral. I think if you just entered, you need to mute. And so we we see this, the average agent showing up and wanting to work by referral. And for some, that works really well. If they've got magnificent interpersonal skills, if they really enjoy being around people and engaging, then they can do great that way. To be honest, I love one-on-one conversations, but I'm not a very social person, actually. And if I go to a party, I'll probably end up having one, maybe two really in-depth conversations with people while this party is going on over there, right? And but whatever blows your whistle, so to speak, is what we want to do and play to your strengths. So for those of you that have just come in, one of the things that I've asked for people to do, if you've taken a DISC profile, put what your profile is in chat. I'm curious. And we were laughing because Donna's a high DC, which I was saying is one of the most challenging behaviors to have, because she's very driven and she wants everything just right. Troy is a high I, which I can certainly see that. And Troy, that really plays to the way that you do your business, right? Troy he's in Colorado, Golden, Colorado, and his theme of his business is to really mesh your lifestyle with your home, right? Like his dream scenario is you have a bike trail off the backyard of the house. And so what he does to generate business is he gets involved in bike clubs and he sponsors them and he volunteers at them and so forth. And so he's catering to what is a natural strength for him. And actually, Troy, why don't you speak to that? I know you have done a few different things that have yielded you business by engaging in that way, but why don't you share some of the things that you do with your lifestyle community? And I know you have a professional network now as well, but I want you to more speak to how you've taken cycling and incorporated that into your business.
Yeah, thanks, Don. Yeah, so I mean, when I was, I got into real estate 5 years ago, and I was really just trying to figure out my branding and my message and like tie in what I really love, with the career. Like there had to be the link between like loving the career and loving, what I do in life. And like, I love houses and such, but it's not like my main passion. Like cycling is my big passion. And so I found a way to, for me, like trail proximity, having that, being able to be close to a trail is highly important to me. It's important to other people as well, but it's also someone else might want to like stroller down to the park with their kids or walk to a coffee shop or go to the yoga or whatever. And so it's really about finding like the lifestyle component and really help my clients think beyond the 3-2 vaulted ceilings, blah, blah, blah. But like, what do you want your life to look like? Okay, you might have kids in a few years. What do you want to go to? And so just trying to expand on that. And so with the teams, I managed a team and was on like a board for an existing team. And then it came to that this team was kind of folding and another team was having issues. So I brought two teams together and we kind of got married in 2020. And now there's 50 some athletes and I sponsor the team. You know, I make water bottles, brand different stuff. But anyways, we get together and ride, and I'm just the social connector for people to have a good time on their bike. So that's
By the
pretty much
way,
what it looks like.
when I came over and borrowed your bike, I was tempted to steal your water bottle.
Why didn't you? I have tons of them. I can mail you one.
Oh, it's okay. I'll be out there again. Yeah, well, great. And, you know, and I know that that's working for you. And if there's other people with us today that have incorporated, you know, the things that they enjoy doing into the natural flow of their business, I'd love to hear about that. I know, well, you just met Kayla, right? Who just recently joined us over from Remax, also in Colorado. And she's incorporated her hobby of horses, right? She's into horsing, or, you know, riding and so forth. And that's a really tight community. And so she's done that really well as well. But I just put in the chat, you guys, I put my cell number. And so if you want me to text you the link for you to be able to take the disc for free, I will send you the link for that. And, you know, when you text me, just tell me what it's about, and I'll forward the link over to you. So, you know, there's a couple different pieces of this personality thing. And the first part of it is for you personally. In other words, know thyself. And then let's just have a little conversation though about different behaviors and then what suits that personality. And some of these will probably resonate with you and some will obviously not. But if you're a driver personality, you would be a person that would be inclined to be able to pick up the phone and actually cold call, prospect, okay? And if your eye is not too high, then you don't even mind the rejection that bad, okay? And so look to do an activity like that. Door knocking would be another activity. Actually, I think door knocking would be really nice for a DI, which I think, Kyle, is what you are actually. I think you're very driven, but also have influencer behavior. And so, you know, the D is going to get you to knock on the doors, and the I is going to get you to be able to establish rapport with people, right? So when you're driven, think mass types of prospecting. You'd probably be good. Patrick, I'm kind of curious to find out what your behavior is, because I would think that a high D would also be, you know, how they always say speed to the lead with internet leads. I would think that a D would come in really handy and powerfully in that respect as well.
Yeah, I'm relatively fearless calling people or getting on the phone with them.
Yeah,
I would say actually, like you said, the one-on-one comes easy for me, but like working a room, going and working a room of 100 people and trying to meet as many people as possible has never been easy.
Yeah,
but
for me either.
Getting on the phones and calling people and making, you know, quickly getting rapport comes easily.
Yeah. Your behavior then is probably pretty similar to mine. You're probably a D with kind of a mid-I.
Probably.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I do encourage you to take it, because it can help you really dial it in. Okay, but if I'm a D, okay, I'm cold calling, I'm door knocking, I'm doing internet lead gen, probably all pretty successfully, okay? Now, what if I'm a high I? Oh, somebody needs to mute. Diane, I think it's you, if you can hear me, if you'll mute, or I guess I can mute you. Oh. Give me a second, you guys. Okay. If I'm a high I, one of the things that you'd be good at is open houses. So who loves open houses? Troy, I see your hand going up. Anybody else? Let's see here. Go through Anna Maria. Yeah, Super Mario. Kenny, cool. And Anna Maria, do you know your profile? By the way, you've got to have somebody. Anna Maria gets up at 6 a.m. to come to our class, guys. She's in Oahu, Hawaii.
I'm sick. I ended up with COVID.
Oh,
No.
did you really? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll get it to you. Geez, you got up at 6 a.m. and you're sick with COVID? You
Committed.
what a trooper. Hang in there. I want to catch up with you on your candidate here in Portland too, but that's another conversation. Okay, so guys, hi, you're going to be unlike Patrick and me. You would be the life of the party, right? You would love meeting a lot of people. So social events, networking, open houses are all events that are going to really cater to who you are, and you'll be energized by that activity, right? I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with open houses. I do actually like doing open houses, even though I have it because I have a trailing eye. You know, it ranges anywhere from, it's naturally probably a 5, but I elevate it up to maybe a 6 or a 7 when I do open houses. And because I actually do really enjoy the one-on-one communication. But when I get a bunch of people going on in the open house, that's when my little screen comes up and I'm not enjoying myself, right? So now here's an interesting thing. And by the way, in general, I would say that 70% of the successful agents in our industry are either high D or high I. Okay. Now, there are people that succeed with an SC behavior. In fact, Wayne Hall, my old business partner, who used to be the OP of the Keller Williams in Roseville, had a high SC. And he and his wife, Stacy, were actually very successful in their practice together. Part of it was that Stacy was a little more outgoing and Wayne was very strategic. But, you know, that's a difficult behavior to succeed in. However, there is a way. And one of the things that I noticed Wayne did is he engaged in marketing to bring the clients to him. Okay, so he didn't have to pick up the phone and prospect. That would definitely not have been his thing. Okay, nor did he want to go to open houses, although his wife Stacy would do that. That's why they were actually a pretty good team. But but Wayne would engage. So direct mail is a fantastic thing to do. And one of the things that is really great is if you have that kind of behavior, people are really going to trust you. A lot of CPAs have that behavior, by the way, right? And it's because they don't view you as a salesperson, right? And so especially if you cater to a clientele, and that's the next thing I want to talk about with this behavior profiling, is you need to know your client, right? So who would really resonate with a SC? Well, you know, an engineer would, someone that is an SC, okay? Because you're going to be able to kill them with data and you're really interested in those types of things, right? And so you'll be able to connect with your clients in that way. So, you know, when I'll apply to my personal experience with recruiting is, if I was going into an interview and I knew a high I was walking in the door, which, by the way, you can tell high I's a lot of the time by the cars that they drive. They're generally going to have a colorful car, probably like red. and they'll be wearing bright clothes. And notice, by the way, that I'm constantly wearing black, gray, or blue. Totally boring. My wife thinks I'm just ridiculously boring, okay? But it's because I'm a high D, right? So as your client walks in, notice the car that they drive, notice the clothes that they wear, notice their speech pattern. And what'll happen is when I would sit down with a high I would just ask them to tell me their story. And the next thing I know, the interview would be over because they'd be talking about themselves for 45 minutes, okay? And that is what they like to do, right? So let them do that. And if they're high D, they're going to be very pointed. They're going to ask questions. They're going to want to control the conversation, and they're going to want you to respond in bullets. Okay, and so you guys need to be aware of this when you're talking to your clientele. In fact, you know, it would not be a bad thing for you to basically every single client engagement is you start to look and for these clues that lead you to understanding the behavior of the client that you're meeting with, and you want to give them what they want, right? In other words, if you've got a high D as a client, type A behavior, man, you need to get to the point. If they ask you a question, you need to answer it, and then you want to ask a question back, and you want it to be clear and concise. High I's, you know, let them flourish, you know, make them the center of attention. And, you know, when you're talking about the homes, you know, talk about, you know, gosh, can you imagine the parties that you could host here, right? I never have parties in my house, right? Because I'm not a high I. So, but that would really resonate with a high I, right? And, you know, on the other hand, someone that's SC would be, you know, look at this private little nook, right? You know, where they can have this little place that is quiet and controlled, where they can do their work and get it done, right? So understanding their behavior is nearly as important as understanding your own. And I'm curious, you guys, though, because as I'm talking through this, are you thinking about the clients that you've had, and are you connecting the dots? Can someone even share a story about a client interaction where they picked up on somebody that was a super driver or high I or maybe an SC behavior, and then how they adapted the communication to cater to that? Has anybody done that in their practice? This is the agent participation portion, you guys. Come on.
Don. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Super Mario.
I could relate in the sense that I had a particular client who was he was a handyman.
Mhm.
So it was frustrating to continue showing him properties only for him to pick apart every single house that I showed him. You know, not the right cabinets, not the right closets, all these things. And eventually I just started to shape my presentations. Every time we walked into a house, I would actually give him his own inspection sheet. I kind of played into it and said, here.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, why don't you grab this? I need your help. I want you to evaluate this house with me. And eventually, after about 3 or 4 showings, now we kind of, I don't want to say pigeon-toed him in, but I started to kind of critique the houses around the things. So this way, the next time we would see one, I would say, look at these cabinets. It's kind of like what you like, you know, and but I knew what I was doing, but it was still playing into his, and then he was the dominant. So it didn't matter what the wife thought in his relationship with husband and wife. It was whatever he wanted. And, but I still had to balance addressing his wife at the same time. So for me, it was more playing into what his expertise was instead of trying to resist it and fight it.
Right. By the way, though, you bring up another interesting point, because you would have a married couple, and they may have very distinct personalities. My wife is a high I, for example, so she is more social. And so as you're communicating to us as clients, you might address certain things to me, like, hey, Don, look at how close in proximity this is to, to your work. And, how great and efficient is that going to be? And then, but then talking to Katrin about, how she could, invite friends over, or host an event or something like that. Mario, what type of prospecting do you do in your business?
In the past, I've done a lot of open house prospecting. I really light up. I don't know what the type I am, but I definitely light up in a social atmosphere. But I really want to reach out to Kyle because I've been doing some door-to-door activity and I enjoy it, but I think I need to, what's the word? Be more intentional on the information I'm gathering to build that database, because my territory gets hit quite. There's a lot of solar companies that do door-to-door, so immediately they think I'm a solar guy, which I'll play into that. But door-to-door has never scared me. So cool. I want to increase my door-to-door, especially now. My community is a lot of, I don't want to say original owners, but they've been here for well over 30 years. I'm in Rockland.
Yeah, low turnover.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it a little bit rural, maybe?
Sort of, but it's changing dramatically. Probably in the past 3 years, a lot of change going on here. A lot of new people from Bay Area or other areas coming. So there is a turn. It's happening.
Yeah. By the way, you guys, notice Mario has been joining the last few calls of ours. And remember when he introduced himself the first time as Super Mario? Okay. What would that be a clue of? Okay. Mario's a high I, right? Which makes sense that he would enjoy open houses, which makes sense that he would enjoy door knocking. You're probably not as excited about cold calling, on the other hand, right? And because, do you see how that's why I've got you pegged as an ID? Like when you said, hey, I want to connect with Kyle because I want to get more intentional about door knocking, that led me to believe that you have a little bit of D in you though, right? So you have some drive, it's just that you don't lead with drive. By the way, when I was building the Keller Williams franchises, when I launched a franchise, I launched it with a DI. But then once it was up and I needed to maintain it, I would put in an ID, right? Because it's a bigger crowd that they needed to manage, right? And it was already in momentum. I didn't need somebody to start the thing from the ground up. I needed someone that was going to be able to naturally grow and create a really welcoming culture in the market center. You see the distinction there. And but it's really it's great that you adjusted for that, and you made me think that when you're communicating, you probably weren't giving the checklist to the wife, right? You may have a different style of communication with her, and I don't know what her behavior was, but obviously you want to cater to that naturally. So what, yeah, I think if you like open houses, go ahead.
If there's one thing I'm guilty of, Don, and my wife always picks on me, is when I do meet a high D, I have the, she tells me I don't pay attention, but I have the amazing ability to start. I look at it in the back of my mind, I'm winding them up and I want to get them talking, and they love talking about themselves. And I just love it because the more they talk, the more I'm gathering information as well and figuring them out. And I'm talking about clients or even recruits. But I wind them up and just let them spin, and they just go,
Yeah. By the way, if they really like to go on like that, that's more high I. The D's are going to be more pointed. They're going to be more demanding. They're going to have questions for you. They're going to want to control the conversation. But yeah, I mean, if you can get it, that's, I typically will start most of my interviews with tell me your story, right? If they tell me that story in 2 or 3 sentences, I know I probably got a high D on my head. If they take 20 or 30 minutes, I have a high eye on my hands, right? And I let it go, however, that they want to let it go. Okay, so by the way, Mario, I think the prospecting that you're doing is suited to who you are. Open houses and door knocking would be good. Probably where you're dropping the ball, I'm just guessing, is in personal communication with your sphere of influence. But do you call your sphere regularly, at least quarterly?
No, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I do call, but I'm not systematic about that call. So you're right.
Okay. By the way, you're a low SC, so it makes total sense that you're not systematic. Okay, but here's what I want you to do. First of all, you got to get your database. You were talking about with Kyle about wanting to build your database. So the way I want you to connect the dots is I want you to keep doing open houses, and I want you to door knock for the open house. That's the door knocking I think you should do. Okay.
Okay.
I have found I had a bit of a fear of doing door knocking myself, to be honest. But when I was doing it for an open house, it was no problem. If I would have done Kyle's system, which is, I have a buyer, so I'm checking with the neighbors to see if they're interested in selling. I could have made that work as well, but I was perhaps a little too lazy to make that work. But I was willing to door knock for open houses. So the component that I want you to add to complement to what you're already doing is get your database up to 300, and then I want you to call 5 people a day, right? So that you're calling them every 90 days. Come from a place of contribution and use one of our 4 scripts, right? Real estate resource, real estate as investment, dream home conversation, or an event that's coming up.
Okay.
And we can talk more about role playing that, but Patrick is saying you should check out Sergio. Sergio is one of my old agents from KW Roosevelt, super nice guy, and I could do an introduction for you if you like, but he does a ton of door knocking in Natomas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a good suggestion, Patrick. Thank you. All right. Hey, let's I'd like to hit one more person that I want to hear the type of prospecting that you do. I want to see if we can determine if it's really a fit for you. In other words, are you doing the prospecting that is best suited to your behavior? And then how can we complement it with other things that would be supportive of that? Who wants to offer up what they're doing right now to generate business? Kenny, you're usually game for a little engagement. Why don't you talk about what you're up to?
What I'm up to, I actually have a little list right here I'm going to be working on today. Is nice. I'm going to start door knocking some canceleds in my farm. Okay. There's 4 very close. I've been watching my local market very closely. There's been some price reductions, so my assumption is these people are not very happy with their agents. So I'm just going to go and door knock them and have a conversation and kind of see where they're at and see if I can help them.
Yeah, good. And now you're mentioning canceled, and what about expired?
There's one.
Just one, okay.
Just one, and it's a pending expired. I may hit that one also. These canceleds, I mean, just on the surface, because I've been watching the price reductions and stuff, I bet it's just people that are unsatisfied with how things went with their agent.
Well, let me give you a little more insight on that.
Sure.
I personally had a lot more success with expireds than I did canceled. The reason why is because if lots of times what you're going to encounter is a canceled listing is perhaps somebody that was lacking motivation. So whatever it was, the why of why they were going to sell may have changed. Like maybe they were going to trade up and now interest rates are going up and now they don't qualify. Or one that I had even more trouble with was people that were going to trade down. That they were definitely lacking motivation. You are correct that in some instances that they are not happy with their agent. One thing I want you to be careful of and aware of also is that even though the listing is withdrawn, it's still technically listed until the active period has expired.
Okay.
So unless that agent releases the listing, you may not be able to list it until the expiration date comes, okay?
Okay.
So be careful that you don't run afoul of that.
Gotcha.
Right.
That should be able to see that in the MLS, the expiration date.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I think you can. I don't access MLS these days, but yeah, do check for that.
Okay.
And it's not to say that some agents wouldn't maybe release the client. Maybe they mutually wanted to part ways. But if it is still in the listing period, you by the our guidelines of how we manage our the boards and so forth, you shouldn't be able to list that until the expiration comes to be. Okay. Now, I believe you would be safe in listing the property and post dating the listing, to start it upon the expiration. But I would absolutely, I know there's only one expired there now, but that's going to change.
I check it daily.
Yeah, the market is shifting really dramatically right now, and we're in this cresting period, and you're going to see an accumulation of inventory, and then that will then precipitate expires because the sellers are wanting to sell based on the comps of past, and the buyers are buying for what they think is going to be in the future, and so you're going to have this disconnect for the next year or so, and so you're definitely going to see an influx of expired, so you go after those for sure. But what other types of prospecting have you done for your business?
So far, just open houses, and I've attacked my sphere pretty good. I've broken my sphere up into three different spheres. I played baseball into my 40s, and I've got my baseball sphere. My wife and I also have a dog training and boarding business. I have my dog sphere, and then just kind of my family and old friend sphere. So far, the dog sphere has been pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really curious to hear how your profile comes out, but I'm thinking you might be a DI, but you could be DI or ID. You seem to like the social aspect also, but I don't know if that's because it's tied to things that you like doing, whether it was baseball or involved with the dogs. Do you have a suspicion about that if you're DI or ID?
Well, I did a quick test on this call, but it wasn't really all that thought out. I came up with a DC.
Okay.
But now that I think about it, I'm pretty good at adapting to situations. I can adapt to people pretty easily. So I'm not sure.
Well, do you remember what I said about that though? Remember what I said about that earlier? You can adapt, but it takes energy to do that. Okay. But as I'm hearing you now, I think it's pretty clear that you're high D.
Okay.
Yeah. And you probably have become more compliant correct as you have matured, but I think I would engage in a lot of activities that, because like weren't you also prospecting for sell by owners with Russell's system?
Yes, I do those also. Yep.
Yeah. So that would be a high D behavior that would be willing to do that.
Okay.
By the way, you notice how Russell's a high D.
Always has been. I've known him since he was 16 years old. He's always been that way.
Yeah. Right. Do you see that in him?
Absolutely.
Right?
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for you, you're going to be able to do things that require calling initiative prospecting That's why, expireds, withdrawals, cancel, FSBOs are all going to be things that will work for you. You might actually make the 5 calls per day that I'm trying to get Super Mario to make. To your sphere of influence.
I'm pretty good at my dialing. I'm getting a couple hours in a day, and I'm just trying to make sure people know what I'm doing.
Right. Well, and do you see my point though? That's driver behavior.
Yep.
Okay. All right, you guys. I don't want to overbeat this, but I do hope that what you take from this conversation today is it's really super important that you understand your natural behavior. So if you haven't taken a DISC, do take it. If you want to share those results with me, please do. I put my phone number in the chat so you guys can all contact me. And I really, I want you, when you do reach out to me, I want you to tell me, okay, Don, here's my natural behavior, and here's why I'm doing this type of prospecting, right? I want you to build a case for it. And just know, by the way, that you can do other things, but they're going to drain you energetically. They'll be harder for you to maintain over a long time. You can do anything for 90 days, but over the long haul, you want to play to your strengths. One of my coaches always said, delegate everything but your genius, right? And, that's really the highest level. That's the highest bar that you want to shoot for. And I reminded him, yeah, but you have to make sure you're delegating it to genius. So otherwise you want to take it back, especially if you're like Kenny and you want things really to be precise and correct. You got to be careful who you delegate to. So you guys, your homework is get your DISC, let me know what you come out with, and then tell me what type of prospecting and or marketing you're doing that is suiting that behavior, because the market has shifted on us, okay? And it's going to become arguably more dramatic. I think the Fed will probably raise the discount rate on their next meeting, either 3/4 and maybe even a full 100 basis points. So rates are going to go up further, I think, and that's going to reduce affordability, which is going to make inventory accumulate and buyers stall. And I want you to know there's still going to be about 5 million sales a year, right? People are going to continue to have babies. They're going to continue to pass away. They're going to continue to have job transfers. Their businesses are going to go up. Their businesses are going to go down. I mean, these are life events that cause transfers. You just got to make sure you get your disproportionate share of them, right? 5 million home sales is going to be 10 million transactions. And so let's see, you get, a good 20, 30 of those at least, right? All right, unless anybody has anything else, I'm going to wrap with that. Let's see.